What we're going to do right now is use this segment on PWF Empire Live as a pro wrestling showcase. We are presenting to you Lucha Underground. One of the reasons why I wanted to split up the shows PWTR and PWF Empire Live, because the hosts of PWF Empire Live, we have varied tastes. We don't just watch WWE, we spread ourselves around, so to say, and one of the products that we do watch is Lucha Underground, and I thought that it was worth discussing on the show. Now, the way in which this will be presented, it will be presented to people who may have never watched Lucha Underground before in their life. And what we intend to do with this is, by discussing Lucha Underground, hopefully at the end of this discussion, you say, sounds pretty good. I want to check it out. So let's go ahead and get started and answer a very simple question. Charlie, you're the biggest Lucha Underground fan here, so I'm going to kind of be playing off of you in this segment. What exactly is Lucha Underground?
Lucha Underground is, to me, the ultimate kind of cult wrestling kind of feel. It brings together, it kind of brings out what Lucha Libre is, and it also brings kind of an American crowd to it a little bit. You know, there's the big Latino influence throughout the crowd, but I think they call it the temple where they tape shows. The whole feel of the arena is just so fantastic, and when the guys are in the ring, fans are engaged. They are constantly ready to just lose their mind, and it's a very underground cult atmosphere, similar to kind of the atmosphere you get from ECW with these very hardcore diehard fans in the crowd, and you know, some great wrestling in the ring.
Could you touch a little bit on the signature style of Lucha Underground? I know you kind of talked about it a little bit there with like the grunge, cult-like feel, but do you have anything more to add in that regard?
Just, you know, Lucha Libre, very high-flying, very, I don't know the proper word to say, because I don't want to say choreographed almost, but it's very fast tempo, high pace. You know, if you've seen Rey Mysterio, imagine, you know, that, but with, you know, other guys that work that style. It's chaotic, all over the place, very exciting. It's pretty much the way to put it.
It seems like their matches always have like at least one or two really cool spots. Like those main events always have a couple of really like nice spots in them, and I think that's something that I've, you know, again, I haven't watched a ton of Lucha Underground. I've watched enough episodes though to be able to see the way that things kind of go with it, and I think that they always have a good quality setup on that show, and it's kind of like amazing independent wrestling with high definition cameras, you know, like I just think that's pretty cool. Like, I mean, I guess some people will say that TNA is that way too, but I think that Lucha has that Lucha has that feeling of just putting on some really good stuff, and I mean, I like their diversity on the roster too. I think that's really cool.
Now I want to go ahead and ask this question. Why should someone watch Lucha Underground? If they're watching us right now and they've never seen Lucha Underground before, what is it about that company that would possibly sell them and say, you know what, I have to watch Lucha Underground?
I would say the biggest thing that they do, and this is something I really wanted to put in here because this is something WWE almost never does, is consistency. They are consistently, week in, week out, a very good program, and that is something very important to me. You know, you never feel the poor episodes of Lucha Underground are the exception, not the rule, and you don't get, you know, you see a great episode of the show and you're like, you know, you feel like that's the status quo. You don't go running around like you do for Raw. When there's a great Raw, we all like jump up and down and like do cartwheels, like holy shit, that Raw was fucking great. Whereas Lucha Underground is just like, yes, we know this show's going to be great, and it is.
And one thing that I would say that works very well in the favor of Lucha Underground, they're not running away from kayfabe. They are fully immersed in it, even to the point where their backstage segments are filmed as if they are scenes from a movie. It looks crazy, and it takes a bit to get used to, but then when you stop looking at it from the perspective of, oh, this is fake, and you just sit there and take it for what it is as far as the entertainment value it provides, I think that it's great. And Lucha Underground, it really does bring the best of Hollywood together with the best of pro wrestling, because they are one of their executive producers is, I believe his name is Robert Rodriguez. I think he directed Sin City, and he
Mark
directed
Burnett's there as well.
Mark
Survivor,
Burnett,
and all those.
Yeah, I think he produces like The Apprentice, Survivor, a lot of those big reality shows, and you can see the influence brought from Hollywood to Lucha Underground, and I'd say that it's a nice hybrid style.
And that's a big thing for Lucha, because Lucha is a very comic book kind of, kind of feel. Lucha Libre is very, the characters are all masked, and there's very, superhero-like people, and they want a superhero-like feel, so that's where that Hollywood influence kind of comes.
And that's something else that they do amazingly well, like the character development and giving you the backstory. That's something that I love in pro wrestling. When you know what someone's motivation is, when they go out there, you know it's for a purpose. You know they're attempting to achieve something, because as much as I like wrestling, I don't like mindless wrestling where you just throw in a match or you have somebody there and you wonder, why the hell are you here? What are you doing? What do you want to accomplish? Like in Lucha Underground, they go out of their way to give you those explanations.
Yeah, and everybody wants larger than life, and these gimmicks feel larger than life because there is that superhero-esque feel, and I think that's something that you don't get in WWE. That's not something you get in TNA. It's something that Lucha kind of has a one-up on, and I think that's just awesome. And not only that, but when you guys made mention of the way that some of their backstage segments are, you're right. It feels like a film, and it feels like it's a real fight, like something that's you gotta watch, you gotta see it, because there's this big ass match coming. I don't know. I just think there's something they kind of add, like that backdrop of there's like a little bit of music, like dramatic music, kind of in the background. Like it's crazy. I just think it's really well produced, and that's something else that I think really adds to it. So it's like what you want to be seeing on main television, but you're seeing it on what's considered just indie stuff, but it has a big fight feel. And I think that's a reason to watch Lucha Underground. It really sticks out in that way. I mean, I'm just saying, it's only an hour-long show compared to a 3-hour Raw. I don't see why you wouldn't watch Lucha Underground.
All right, so who are some of the top stars in Lucha Underground? I know one that I can throw out there is Cage, and that's actually the person that got me hooked on Lucha Underground. And the interesting thing about him, he's this big muscle-bound guy, but he goes out there, he does very agile stuff. He'll do some moonsaults from the top rope, and it's like a culture clash with Cage and Lucha Underground, because he's not really Lucha, but that presents an interesting dynamic when you have him. He's this big power guy going against, the other Luchas on the roster. So who are some of the names for you?
To me, my favorite guy there is Pentagon Jr. This guy, he comes out, he beats your ass, and he breaks your arm, and that's that. So that's just so great, and it's so funny because he gets a mixed reaction, because in 2015, if you come out, beat someone's ass, and break their arm, you are a babyface, because that is awesome. You are an ass kicker. I also have Johnny Mundo from John Morrison. He's busting his ass in this promotion, working incredibly hard. You've also got your champions. You got Prince Puma as the Lucha Underground champion. He's very good. And the Trios champions, they just crowned. And Helico, Son of Havoc, and Evil East. We'll talk more about them later, but they are there as well. And they just had one of the... We'll get there. I have to gush about there.
Okay, let's go ahead and discuss this, because this is the reason why we had to talk about this week, because Charlie, apparently, he's watching Lucha Underground, and he was, like, amazed beyond belief. So I guess this ties into the next thing that I wanted to talk about with them. What are some of Lucha Underground's greatest hits? Well, those defining moments for the company.
I'll start first on the January 7th episode. You had Aztec Warfare, where they crowned the first champion. That was a fantastic match. It's basically Royal Rumble, but with pinfall elimination. Very good. It was the full episode, about 45-minute long match, so it's just fantastic. They also had a casket match, the greatest casket match ever, and that's not a very hard feat to accomplish, but this was still an amazing match. Phoenix and Mil Muertes on the March 18th episode. Unbelievable. And then there is the coup de grace, April 22nd, and Helico, Son of Havoc, and Evil East versus the Crew. Holy shit. This match is officially my favorite moment ever in professional wrestling. Like, ever. Anything. You can talk about CM Punk winning titles. You can talk about Undertaker moments. You can talk about that fucking super kick into the pedigree and the Hell in the Cell. You can nothing surpasses this. This is so basically they had this thing with Angelico, Son of Havoc, and Ivelisse, who I'm a big Ivelisse fan for those of you that don't know. She was dumped by Son of Havoc in a feud with Angelico, and the owner of Lucha Underground puts them together as kind of like a rib, just to, mess with them a little bit because he's a gigantic dick. So you have that whole aspect, and in the first match, Ivelisse actually walks out on the team. And they still end up winning, and she's kind of pissed, and you have these people that are at odds. And how many times in wrestling have we had baby faces at odds who can't get along, and they get their asses kicked, and they look like fucking idiots? But not in this company. Because in this company, they win an elimination match to apparently win the Trios tournament. And Dario Cueto, the owner of Lucha Underground, comes out and says, baffled that this team was able to work together and win the titles. And he says, fuck you, there's one more team. No disqualification, you versus the crew. And they're blown away, and Ivelisse, who has a cracked ankle legit in this match, she broke her ankle in the first match. And so they brawl a little bit, they whoop ass, and Son of Havoc kind of makes a comeback and, saves Ivelisse, so they're starting to build up, they're working together. And then it ends up coming down to Ivelisse and two members of the crew in the ring. They've got her isolated. And then they show everyone in the ring. Son of Havoc's down, and they show Angelico, who is up on top, like in the balcony, pretty much. You can picture it. And, match strikers do anything, and then this team that couldn't get together, all of a sudden, fucking Angelico comes flying 20 feet out of the air and takes out these two fuckers in the crew to save Ivelisse. Then Ivelisse gets up and starts whooping their ass with a kendo stick. And they do the double finisher where Son of Havoc hits a fucking shooting star press, and Angelico hits its foot stomp, and they get the double pin, and they win the titles. And it's such an awesome moment how they came together and went from being these people that couldn't get along and who set aside their differences to become champions. And they did this whole thing where they went around the horn talking about, Ivelisse being a pioneer as, in women's wrestling, and Angelico and Son of Havoc being, Matt from Tough Enough, who got booted off and told he didn't have it. And it was just the whole thing, the whole story, the whole build-up was just so great.
Well, I have not seen that moment yet. I'm catching up with Lucha Underground, but I'm telling you guys, I am hooked on Lucha Underground, and I'm definitely a fan. And hopefully from this conversation, what we've discussed with Lucha Underground, you at least give it a chance, watch an episode, watch the moment that Charlie was talking about, and see if this is something that you could possibly be interested in. 2015 is set to be a pretty big year for professional wrestling, so go ahead and, spread yourselves around, take little samples of the product, and see if you find something that you like. And if... Go ahead, Evan.
I was just going to say, and the El Rey Network has some of the full matches on YouTube available to watch. So
they actually have that one I just talked about.
So. Yeah, so, it's easy to go and, just go right on YouTube and you can see the stuff. So it's not like it's even hard to access to catch up on some of the shows.
So that's one way that you definitely can watch on YouTube, El Rey. That's the channel that Lucha Underground is on. Charlie, you want to go ahead and give the details for someone if they want to watch Lucha Underground maybe on TV?
Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern, prior to, a nice PWF Empire Live pre-show, if you will. It competes in the Wednesday Night Wars with NXT, but NXT is very easily archived, so you can put that on the back burner. El Rey Network, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, and 8 p.m. Pacific. I'm pretty sure they run taped, so they are at the same time everywhere.